Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Last night we told you the sad and bewildering story of Dr. Oz, a man with absolutely everything going for him, talent, decency, charm, money, name recognition, all the right endorsements, who is nevertheless losing by a big margin as a Republican in what should be a Republican wave election to a radical and incompetent Democratic lieutenant governor who's presided over the decline of the state. And who, by the way, also has had a stroke and can no longer speak in complete sentences. That's happening right now. Dr. Oz is getting crushed by a stroke victim who was already crazy. It's bizarre. The question is, why is this happening? We spent some time on the phone the other day calling around to various smart political people to find out why it's happening. We heard a lot of theories, almost all of which boiled down to Dr. Oz is a bad candidate. Mitch McConnell, who's in charge of electing more Republicans to the Senate, gave virtually the same explanation yesterday at a Kentucky Chamber of Commerce lunch. Quote, candidate quality has a lot to do with outcome, he said. In other words, it's not my fault they sent me bad candidates. Okay. But before we accept that a Republican just can't win at a time when Democrats have completely discredited themselves, it's worth pausing and asking exactly what this means. What is a bad candidate? Well, there are no bad candidates, just like there are no bad dogs. There's bad owners. There are no bad candidates. There are just candidates who are running on the wrong things, candidates who are talking about issues that people don't deeply care about. A good candidate is the opposite of that. A good candidate is a candidate who promises to fix the problems that voters worry about most. Candidates like that tend to win elections because the message is bigger than the man. A candidate with a powerful message can overcome virtually any obstacle. From multiple bankruptcies to universal media hostility to a dull orange skin tone. If voters believe you will make their lives better, they will vote for you, period. It's not complicated. Unfortunately, donors and party leaders often do complicate it. They want candidates to talk about issues that they care about, which are often very different from the issues that the public cares about. Remember, Republicans used to yell at you about entrepreneurship? That's the most important thing. Entrepreneurship. Okay. Sounds kind of amusing now, but basically that is still happening. Consider Pennsylvania, the state where Dr. Oz is now losing. What do voters in Pennsylvania care about most? We haven't seen the most recent polls, but we would guess law and order is at the very top of that list. Why do we think that? Well, here's video from a story that a local television station, Fox 29, is doing tonight about murder in Philadelphia, the state's largest city. You're seeing the pictures on your screen right now. Reporter Chris O'Connell went to a nearby cemetery and asked how things were going. Workers there told him, quote, we can't dig graves fast enough. That's how many young people are being murdered in Philadelphia right now. We can't dig graves fast enough. When was the last time you heard that? You didn't hear it during COVID, the global pandemic that politicians told you was the worst thing ever to happen to America. But COVID wasn't the worst thing ever to happen to America. And over time, people figured that out. They learned they had been lied to. And that's one of the reasons so many Americans now hate politicians. They're tired of the lying. And it's the very same reason that voters will tend to reward any candidate who tells the truth about what is actually happening and what actually matters. Here's one thing that actually is happening and actually matters, something that everybody sees, but that candidates virtually never mention, and that is stealing. Suddenly there's a huge amount of stealing in the United States. It's everywhere. That's a problem because stealing is a crime, a moral crime. In fact, it's the first crime that most of us learn not to commit as children. Don't steal. Don't take what doesn't belong to you. It's immoral, and it certainly is immoral. Yet somehow in the last few years, our leaders, Democrats mostly, but honestly to some extent both parties, our leaders have decided that stealing isn't really such a big deal. It's not really a crime. It's certainly not something we should be worried about. In a country this rich, with this much income inequality, how can you really tell people not to take from those who are better off than they are? That's their attitude. It's a decadent attitude, but that's what they really believe, even if they don't always say it out loud. So without any sort of public referendum, the kind you would have in a democracy, cities around the country have effectively decriminalized stealing. So what's been the effect of this? Well, more stealing. And stealing quickly metastasizes into looting. And then social collapse. That's happening right now, everywhere. Here's footage from a grocery store in Los Angeles. That footage is followed by footage of a crowd of criminals storming a 7-Eleven. Why?
Oh my God. I'm gonna go to jail.
So that's LA. Could be anywhere. We saw that on the internet this morning, and we were shocked by it, transfixed by it, really. It's repulsive. There is no excuse for that. No one in that crowd needed what they stole. They didn't need Newports to survive. No one starves to death in this country anyway. But they stole anyway. Why? Not because of us, but because of them. Because they're greedy and piggish. Their parents never told them not to, and most of all, because they could. Joe Biden's Justice Department will never say a word about what they did. Criticizing theft is an offense against equity. But that's happening. Why isn't every Republican candidate in the nation running ads with that footage in it? No one is, as far as we know. Most are just ignoring the chaos. But that doesn't mean it isn't real. It is real, and again, because it's not addressed, it's spreading. Starbucks just closed 16 stores nationwide because of increasing theft. It's going unpunished. It's going unpunished. Target just reduced its operating hours in 6 San Francisco stores. They used to close at 10 so people could buy stuff after work. Now they're going to close at 5. Why? Because of crime, stealing. Walgreens shut down 17 stores altogether. Stores now losing an average of $45 million a day because of theft. What does that add up to? The disintegration of society. That's not an overstatement. You see it everywhere. Robbery up dramatically in New York. It's so bad in New York that grocery stores are locking spam and ham and anti-theft cases. Robberies up 12% in San Francisco, 20% in LA. Motor vehicle thefts are also up by similar numbers. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, arrests for theft and motor vehicle theft have actually been going down. Oh, so the incidence of crime rises, but the punishment of crime falls. Prosecutors in California have stopped enforcing the law. But it's not just California. It's at the federal level as well. Joe Biden's DOJ has done nothing to stop the crime wave, and so it is accelerating everywhere. Illinois and Washington State, for example.
Some high-end stores along the Gold Coast have hired security guards to usher in customers one at a time because of videos like this, where a handful of criminals come in at a time. In this case, the theft ring made off with over $100,000 worth of Louis Vuitton items.
This may be the most brazen shoplift you'll ever see. After singling out a $600 70-inch TV, police say John Lomack, the man in blue, puts the TV on a shopping cart and starts to wheel it through Seattle's downtown Target. Court documents say he's stolen from this Target 21 times before.
Suspects running through the streets of San Francisco, arms full of loot.
A trio of thieves violently smashing and then grabbing $20,000 worth of watches.
Snatch and run. Within seconds, thieves swiped $93,000 worth of merchandise from Louis Vuitton in Bellevue.
Customer stepped outside and then returns with a pistol, jabbing at the employee, demanding all the bills from the register. The gunman takes the cash and runs out. Police think he's done it before.
Makes your heart beat faster watching that. What country is this? And why is no one stopping them? You've seen videos like this. They're all over the internet. When there's a security guard, the security guard just stands there haplessly doing nothing. Some of them are cowards, probably. Some of them aren't. But none of them know. None of them believe they're going to be backed up by the government, local, state, or federal, if they intervene and try and stop someone from stealing. So people steal with impunity. Why wouldn't they? Their parents don't tell them not to. And what happens then? If you allow people to loot stores, it will not be long before they are sticking guns in your face and pulling the trigger. Disorder leads to violence every single time. We've seen this movie repeatedly. And once violence begins and the state does nothing to stop it, in fact, in some cases, encourage it, what happens then? People become desperate, and left with no other choice, they take the law into their own hands. That is already happening. We have law enforcement and courts to prevent this, so people won't have to do this. But they're not functioning, so people are doing it. Watch this Las Vegas smoke shop owner defend himself with a knife when a robber dressed in all black and a mask suddenly vaults the counter.
Why are you guys wearing masks like that?
Say what?
You guys just leave.
Yeah.
Jacob. I just got the... Alright, take the money in it. I keep the coins. I need the coins. Bro, okay.
We cut out the rest of it. We stabbed that man. until he fell down and didn't resist. The store owners called Johnny Nguyen. He told reporters, no embarrassment, I don't think he planned on getting stabbed that day, but if you try robbing a store, you are taking a risk. That's a message people who rob stores have forgotten, but they're going to be reminded of it very soon as more store owners find they have no choice but to defend their lives and property with force, with knives or guns. That's going to happen. Do we want that? In some cases, those people will be arrested. In other cases, they'll become local celebrities. But in all cases, we're putting the onus of law enforcement on the individual when that is the core duty of the state. But the state's given up. And again, in a lot of cases, in the case of the Biden administration, they're encouraging it. So again, more store owners are doing exactly what that man did, defending themselves and their livelihoods. That's even happening in California, where despite the strictest gun control in the country, a man with a rifle tried to shoot and kill a store owner in July. And here's what happened next.
He pointed his gun directly at me. I'm not waiting anymore. I fired.
After taking on 4 armed robbers,
80-year-old Craig Cope is back at work at Norco Market and Liquor. Investigators say 4 men in a stolen vehicle with stolen weapons backed into the parking lot.
Pulled over to here.
Inside, Craig was alone. Watching the security cameras, Craig grabbed his shotgun, knowing he would have to defend himself.
But I was trying to make sure I hit what I was pointing at.
one of the men was shot in the arm. You can hear him screaming in the video.
So the Biden administration is constantly lecturing you about civil rights. Crime is the most basic violation of civil rights. And they're doing nothing. If they cared, instead of sending tens of billions of dollars to corrupt oligarchs in Ukraine, more money for Zelensky, maybe they could send the money to immigrant convenience store owners for security. But they're not. They could investigate the prosecutors who are refusing to enforce the law in violation of our Constitution and their oaths of office. That would be a start. But they're not doing that either. The DOJ isn't even acknowledging this is happening. Instead, they're focusing all of their energy on phantom white supremacy threats, people who complain about the sexual mutilation of children. They're the ones feeling the heat from the DOJ. And where's the other side? Once again, if every Republican office seeker, every Republican candidate in the United States focused on law and order and equality under the law, there would be a red wave. Well, the Attorney General of the United States suggests it's a hate crime if you're against the sexual mutilation of children. But a lot of people are so offended by this atrocity that they're speaking up anyway, and they're being banned from social media. Even the YMCA. You can't go to the YMCA. But they're not backing down. We'll talk to one of them straight ahead. 100 years ago, it was considered progressive to raise the wages of America's middle class. Now it is progressive to support the sexual mutilation and sexualization of children. That's progressive. And as a result, all over the country, kids are being forced to attend drag shows like this. Does that offend you? Think that's inappropriate for children? Don't say it, because thought crimes are now the real crimes. Merrick Garland's DOJ is informing you it's a hate crime to say anything about what you just saw. But some people are not intimidated. A coalition called Gays Against Groomers has formed and has one mission: stop the sexualization and the abuse of young children. Now, for saying that out loud, big tech companies have tried to silence them. They've been banned by Twitter as well as Linktree and other social networking sites. So after being criticized, Twitter has just reinstated their account. Jamie Michelle is the founder of Gays Against Groomers. She joins us tonight. Jamie, thanks so much for coming in. Thank you for what you're doing. On what grounds are you being banned? What was your crime exactly?
Well, thank you for having me, Tucker. We were banned for hateful conduct, which they consider calling out child predators and abusers and people that want to sexualize them. They, I guess, are a protected class of people now on big tech. So for speaking out against them and trying to protect children, we were taken down. We've been taken down 3 times in 3 months now. We're brand new. Our coalition just started in June, and yeah, they can't seem to cut us a break here.
So people are intentionally sexualizing children, which I thought was a crime. It's certainly a moral crime, but because you don't like it, you're the dangerous one.
Exactly. In any moral society, it would be criminalized, what we see happening, and it should be criminalized. But that doesn't seem to matter. These people are going full steam ahead with their agenda, and they're using our community, the LGBT community, to use. They're using us as shields, essentially, right, to continue to push this unabated. And so I decided that that's enough. We're not going to let this continue anymore because the vast majority of our community stands so strongly against this, and we're just as disgusted by it as everyone else. And I think that our voices are going to be really effective in actually putting an end to it.
I hope you're right. I'm just wondering what percentage of the American population, of any party or sexual preference or whatever, of all Americans, 340 million, what percentage are for this? It can't be big.
Right. I think it's a very, very small minority, especially with our community and the people outside of it that use us to push the agenda. But I think that they're so loud, and that's all you see coming from our community because they have the backing of big tech, woke media, woke corporations, and even this administration. Right. So they have a big backing, you know, and so if they want to get their point across, everybody that has some power in this country is going to help them do that. And, you know, we're growing incredibly fast. We're only 3 months old, but we have almost 170,000 followers, and they can see how effective our voices from inside the community are going to be to fight this. And, you know, they have censorship, and we have the majority of the population. And so I think in the end we'll win, and regardless of what they try to do to suppress our voices.
That's totally right. It's like Nancy Pelosi, CNN, and Media Matters. So the only people who are in favor of this. Jamie, I appreciate your bravery.
Much.
Thank you. Yes, I think that's right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. So we always want to highlight the bravery of people who stand against the insanity, whom history will record as heroes. Julie Jamon is one of them. She's 80 years old. She's now been banned from stepping inside a YMCA. Why? Well, because she dared to object when a male employee was assigned to watch little girls remove their bathing suits in the bathroom in a women's locker room. So this week, a few dozen people joined Jamon to protest the YMCA. Some of the protesters, including her, were assaulted by lunatics, men dressed as women. Here's some of the footage from that on Monday.
You may have read some version of my personal experience. A naked old lady in the women's shower room, and what I saw that day. Are we getting up here?
Women's rights are human rights! Women's rights are human rights! Trans rights are human rights!
The police, please.
Trans women are women!
You can see why it's so necessary to have safe spaces for women.
Trans women are women!
Screaming at her. Julie Jamon is the woman, the brave woman you just saw in that video. She joins us tonight. Julie, thanks so much. We are grateful that you are joining us. Why, at this stage in your life, are you taking it upon yourself to speak up against this in the face of what we just saw?
I was in the shower and I saw that man in that women's suit, and I saw him watching little girls. You can't not act when you see that going on. You must do something.
So and bless you for doing that. That's exactly right. Your moral sense is clear. I have no idea what your background is, but you have a very clear sense of right and wrong, and I wish more people had it. So you tried to explain that in the video we just played, and rather than listen to you, people screamed at you and then appeared to come at you. Have you noticed there's no conversation about this?
It was a mob of hundreds of people that came streaming into this permitted gathering, And they kettled us. I think that's what you'd call it. They pushed, shoved, they knocked women to the ground. These are the men and the supporters of men that apparently the YMCA and the city want to allow into the women's dressing and shower area. I object.
And you, at the age of 80, were banned by the YMCA. It's hard to even believe this is real, because you were taking a shower and there was a man in there and they banned you, not him. What, can you tell us if that's true, A, and B, what YMCA is this?
Yes, that's correct. I told that guy to get out of the shower, and then a staff member came around the corner and I said to her, get him out of here. And she said, that's discrimination. You're out of here for life, and I'm calling the cops.
Can you tell us what YMCA, where did this happen?
This happens in Port Townsend, that's on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State.
It's just, I hope they are punished for the way that they treated you. And I appreciate your bravery and your forthrightness.
I do too. We did try and get the police to come help us. They were standing across the street. Whoops. And they were told by a directive to stand down. They did not come to help us.
I hope they rot. Julie German, thank you for all you've done. I appreciate it. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you.
We've nearly wrapped up our production of a new documentary for our documentary series called Transgressive, The Cult of Confusion. It'll debut on Fox Nation just a little later this summer.
I mean, y'all seriously, y'all got a batshit crazy liberal at that school enforcing something like this, and it's not sexual harassment. Yeah, and we have a constitution. You can't force speech. You can't force incorrect English because somebody don't know what they are. Gonna have everybody talking like slaves again. Hey, you don't say they, them. You. Hey, they, them, boss. They, them gonna beat the shit out of us. They, them gonna be mad at us. They, them say, you better do it. Yeah, slaves sound like that because they was illiterate. They wasn't able to read. Y'all want people to walk around sounding like slaves. Where they, them go? Boss show gonna be mad at us. Oh, did you call call that person a he or she? They, them gonna get you. They, them gonna give you 7 lashes. They don't play with that damn he and that she bullshit. You better call in they, them. Hey, if you know what's good for you. I'm going to tell them on you because I'm a snitch. I'm going to get in good with they, them. I'm going to be a house nigga. I'm going to get in good with boss. Hey, they, them. That dude called you he the other day. Go on, get him, boss. They, them. I'm with you. Man, fuck y'all. That was a damn good show.
And Joe.
Do you listen to the TV on
Josh Shapiro and Joe Biden, 2 career politicians and 2 terrible records? Josh Shapiro supported the largest gas tax in the country. No wonder we're seeing historically high gas prices. As Attorney General, Josh Shapiro refuses to prosecute gun crimes, even as homicides hit record levels. Talk about out of touch. Pennsylvanians have had enough of painful prices and out of control inflation under Joe Biden. Pennsylvania can't afford career politician Josh Shapiro.